In my latest video, I talked about 1.5 and how it will change everything. In the comments, most of you guys were saying stuff like third row will come to 1.5 or Fright will be in 1.5. But what if I told you that isn't really the focus of 1.5? I'm not saying that Fright and third row will never come, but that could be for future stuff. More on that later. Now, when Ollie mentioned how 1.5 would be the biggest content update we'll ever have, we need to clarify that content doesn't always mean a new train, or in some cases an extension. Just because we're getting a big content update doesn't mean it's like Fright or third row. But what is the real focus of 1.5? Well, it's gameplay. Ollie has repeatedly talked about a gameplay feature that will change British Railway, and to make my point even stronger, he said if the focus of 1.4 is everything outside new driving gameplay, 1.5 is planned to be the exact opposite. Ollie also says 1.5's biggest feature might be another back-end system. It isn't necessarily excited on the surface, but it's necessary for British Railway to continue in the direction the developers want. The idea is to set the groundwork of the game so we can get more content and more things in the future. After that, much bigger things can come that can actually change the way you play the game. The headline feature Ollie has planned could change British Railway forever. This is the feature that Ollie has repeatedly talked about, and he said the headline feature I have planned for 1.5 will make it the most substantial change into British Railway's gameplay in its history. We will see if that happens. And one thing that might release in 1.5 had already been in development since last summer, which he said back in February. This tells me why the targeted release date is so soon, because 1.5 has been in development for a while. It's only now that Ollie's focus is fully on 1.5. He's also mentioned that there was one exciting train definitely coming in 1.4.2, which is obviously the HST, and another exciting train in the development for the future, said in June. He said that the other train probably is on 1.4.2 and could be 1.5 or a later 1.5.x update. He's also mentioned that bigger trains are generally released at better times, with things like the Pendolino or HST being suited for a summer or Christmas release.
Now, there has been a theory going around about server switching.
Server switching is a back-end system, and it links to driving gameplay. It fits Ollie's comments about something being necessary for British Railway's future direction because it could potentially solve some of the limitations of having everything inside one server. But remember, it's just a theory. I doubt this is confirmed, but it's one of the stronger theories I'd believe for 1.5. But how could this explain the 15 station theory? Ollie said that depending on what plan they go with, 15 for 1.5, 15 stations might not be miles off. Server switching could make large extensions possible, which would explain why a 15 station extension isn't necessarily unrealistic. And to be honest, since they are focused on main lines, such as the previous mainline update, the Mill Bridge, which is now finished, an extension of around 15 stations beyond Coffley would already be a substantial addition to the network. And if Coffley ever got a big extension like that, then a Pendolino would be suitable, especially with a target release for 1.5 being this year. Christmas would be a good time to release 1.5. If bigger trains are treated as major releases, Christmas could be a fitted time for something like a Pendolino. But the Pendolino is only a possibility. There is no confirmation of the exciting train Ollie was referring to. Ollie did say back in 2024 though, that the Pendolino would take a while, but they would want to do it properly, so we don't know yet. But let's go in more depth about the Coffley extension. We already know that this is one of the last of the mainland in Ollie's head, and he said that this is will be the biggest content update. This is where server switching makes even more sense, because if server switching works in the way the theory suggests, the content enabled by it could be a much large number of stations. This could connect to Ollie's comment when he said we've only just realized what we could do with 1.5, and it's actually insane. If they were able to add a substantial number of stations beyond Coffley, that would make the extension far more significant than a normal route expansion. In my opinion, I believe 1.5 is setting British Railway up for the future, because 1.5 isn't necessarily adding loads of trains or features into one update. It's about setting the game for much bigger stuff in the future. A major back-end gameplay system could be about changing what British Railway is capable of doing afterwards. This would explain why Ollie keeps talking about 1.5 in terms of gameplay and the direction of the game, rather than simply listing content. So the idea basically is just to set up the foundations, change the gameplay to make larger things possible, like Fright or third row, which is what you guys want, and fair enough, I want that as well. But it's going to take time, guys. For the future, server switching could allow British Railway to add much larger extensions instead of being restricted by the limitations of one server or map. This could also help with lag, because a smaller server would mean your device isn't having to load the entire network at once. And this shows why the back-end work matters for British Railway's future. It's not just the technical work for the sake of it, If the developers can change the underlying system, they can eventually build much bigger things that could add change to the way the game is played. That could mean future gameplay additions that aren't currently practical, including things like third rail, not necessarily in 1.5, but potentially further down the line. So the important thing isn't just what does 1.5 add, it's what does 1.5 make possible afterwards. And that would explain why Oli has described the update as potentially the most substantial change to the British Railways gameplay in its history. But we don't know yet whether everything will work as planned, but based on what we've been told, this is the theory that makes the most sense for what we know. But yeah, that's all about 1.5. Again, thanks for watching. Make sure to tell me in the comments what you think about the server switching theory, what you want to see in 1.5 based on gameplay, and I'll see you in the next one.